Time for sound design. In today's video, I'm going to create a synthesizer from scratch. I'm going to do this in Ableton using a sampler device in Ableton. So it's going to be a sample-based synthesizer. And for the actual oscillator or the waveform, I'm going to generate that from scratch. I'm not going to do that in Ableton. I'm going to use a free open source software called Audacity, which runs on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And this software is made for audio editing, but is actually quite extensive. There's a lot of features in there. And one of the menu items is called Generate, and that allows you to generate audio waveforms like tones and noises. The idea is to generate a tone, export that as an audio sample, and then import it into Ableton's sampler. And in that way, you can generate your own synthesizer or your own oscillator from scratch. I thought that could be an interesting idea. Let's see if it leads to interesting results. So without further ado, let's go to Audacity and generate some tones. This is Audacity. When you start it up, it's blank like this. And then here on the top menu, it says generate. And there you have a few different options. Let's start with plug. So as you can see, you have this pop-up window. It's a plug sound. It's a longer sound. And then here you can do the MIDI pitch. So these are MIDI notes, I guess. Very high. You can also set the duration. Let's close this now and see what else there is. There's noise, white, pink, and Brownian noise. We want something melodic. You can generate silence. Interesting. But here at the bottom there is tone. And then there's a few different options. So there's sine, square, sawtooth, square, no alias, and triangle. So let's do saw. And what I put in here is 523.25, and that is exactly a C in octave 5. So I found this website where there's a frequency to note conversion table. I will link down in the description. So here you can basically pick out a note, use that frequency, put it in here. There's amplitude, so that's volume, and then there's duration, so 5 seconds. That's more than enough. Let's generate this. As you can see, now this is the note. It's not necessarily that pleasant to listen to because it's just a continuous note, but I'm going to export this to audio and then we can use it. Sawtooth. All right, so now that we have a sawtooth, that's just a basic continuous note, 5 seconds, octave 5. Let's go to Ableton and load up sampler and drop that sample into sampler and start creating our synth sound, our synth patch. So here in Ableton, this is the sample on track 1. And let's load that into sampler. As you can see, the volume is pretty high, so I'm going to lower that a bit. And also lower the release time. You can play it polyphonically. I'm going to add the root note to C4. And especially when you play it lower on the keyboard, it sounds better in my ears, to my ears. One other thing I want to do is I want to make a monophonic instrument, so only one note at a time, because I was thinking mostly to make sort of a bass patch. Maybe add a little bit of attack and a little bit more of release. And then let's play with the filter a little bit. So let's lower the filter to maybe around something like 5,000 Hertz and put the filter envelope on. Since it's a very long sample, we don't need to loop it, but maybe we crank up the resonance a bit more. Let's put the filter at 3,500 kilohertz. And let's put in some notes, so to create a bit of a melody. And maybe we can actually put in chords and use an arpeggiator. Let's add a few effects. So a little bit of reverb, just a little kind of splash of reverb. And maybe some autopan to create a bit of stereo spread, or some drive maybe. So let's first start with some reverb. A little bit less than that. Maybe only 10% wet. A bit of autopan after the reverb. And maybe we add an LFO to also create some, move the filter a bit up and down, but not all the way, so, and a bit slower. So as you can hear, going from a basic sawtooth waveform that sounded like this to this, which is a synth sound, of course, because it's a waveform, but it is a sample, so it's actually only using one sample. But if you want to create maybe a more complex or more realistic sound, you can actually just use a sample for every octave, or even multiple samples per octave, and use that all in sampler and map it to the right octaves. So you can actually create a very detailed synth, sampled synth in this way. Let's go back to Audacity and see if there are other kinds of sounds that are interesting that we can generate as well. So another one that's interesting is Recit Drum. So you can create interesting drum sounds here with, there's noise, there's a center frequency, decay, bass frequency. So let's play around with this. Maybe add more noise. So basically you can generate your own percussion. And this could be an interesting sound for maybe an arpeggiated sound. So let's save this percussion and let's load another instance of sampler and experiment with this. So as you can see, it's a very short sound. But especially when we play it lower on the keyboard, 1 or 2 octaves, or 3. We just have to tune it a bit because it's flat of an A. It's pretty much a C. If we put a arpeggiator on this, and I'm thinking some delay, that always works. Let's hold down a chord. Somewhere here. So I turn the sustain all the way down, the decay a bit down, the release a bit down, so it becomes even more snappy. Maybe put some chorus on this. Right here, chorus ensemble. So as you can hear, by generating sounds in Audacity, short percussive sounds like this as well, you can easily create your own patches in Ableton and original patches. And you have fully control over the frequency, the length of the original sample. And Audacity is a free software, so you can just generate a ton of these and create your own sampled instruments. If you're interested in more sampled instruments, I have 2 libraries over on Gumroad. They're free to download, linked in the description, so go check that out. As always, thanks for watching, keep making music, and see you in the next one.